Okay, welcome everybody in this webinar that is organized by the Titan project. And the Titan project is about uh, promoting transparency solutions for transforming the food systems. It is now almost running for 2 years, and we noticed that we make quite some progress. We organize webinars for our stakeholder board every 3 months, but this is an extra one. Usually our webinars are presented by partners in the Titan project, but these are initiatives that are presented by partners outside of the project. The schedule for today is that first we will get a presentation by Esther and David on reducing the environmental impact of your food products with Enviro Digital. This is a new tool that's being developed within ASTI Research Center in the northern part of Spain. Then we will have a presentation on EMIS, the digital platform from Q Assurance for companies to be AI food safety ready. And the presentation will be given by Cornelis van Elst from Q Assurance from the Netherlands. And then Pablo Mendoza Herrera will give a presentation on Meridia Verify, and that is their real-time agri-commodity data verification solution for the EU deforestation regulation compliance. So we think this is a very exciting program. These are 3 initiatives that are really relevant, that have a strong link with food safety, with sustainability, and that have some a digital component. So they would fit very well with Titan. So we are looking forward to the presentations. Just for you to know, we are quite active with Titan on LinkedIn. We share every Tuesday at lunchtime what we call our weekly newsletter, the Titan Weekly. In this newsletter, we present news that we have seen in the past week that is relevant for Titan. And we have different topics: food safety and food fraud, how to properly inform the consumer about healthy and sustainable food. Sustainability, of course, is an important topic with different subtopics. We pay attention to new technologies that are being developed. It can be rapid detection methods, it can be IT solutions, and then we also look for news items about how to properly follow the food system approach. So this we share every week, and it's a great resource for you to have. We also have our newsletter. This comes every 3 months, where we share news about the project, about partners in the project, events that we have been attending. And here you see a picture of the Food for Future Expo Summit that was co-organized by ASTI, and where Titan had the booth, and 16 of the partners of Titan were present. And another news item is about one of our partners, Total Control. It's an innovative startup in Norway that has won their 50th award. And then linked to this newsletter, we share a PDF in which we have a whole list of scientific publications and important policy reports in the topics that I just described. And this is a collection from let's say, at that moment, the past 3 months. And we think this is a really valuable resource for people to check, to look into. So you are encouraged to sign up for the Titan newsletter so that you can see this information, and you can also check our website. And then for you to know, we have already planned the next webinar. This will be the 3rd of September. And the first speaker will be Charlotte Aschiem from Total Control about inventory management. The second speaker will be Marieke de Ruiter de Wild from Open Food Chain, another startup from Amsterdam, about food traceability. And then Julie Tan from the Technical University of Delft will give a presentation about traceability matters, challenges in food supply chains. But I propose we go back to the schedule for today, and I would like to invite Esther and David to give their presentation.
Thank you, Eduard. So David, you share the presentation. Thank you. So first of all, I would like to thank Eduard and all the Titan team for inviting us today. It's a great pleasure for us to share about EnviroDigital tool. So as Edward was saying, we come from ASTI, David and myself. ASTI is ASTI is a technological and research center that is located in Spain, in the north of Spain, in Bilbao. And our specialization is around the marine environment and also around food. And one of the areas that we work a lot is sustainability. My name is Esther Rojo. I work as Customer Value Development at ASTI, and I'm involved in the development of EnviroDigital tool together with David. So David, you want to introduce yourself maybe? You are on mute, David.
Sorry. Hello, I am David Villanueva. I work together with Esther in NASTI. I am a researcher in sustainability and efficiency, part of the department of the sustainable and efficient processes.
Okay, so today we're going to present to you EnviroDigital tool. This is a software that we have developed at ASTI, and we have this tool has the aim to help the food industry to reduce its environmental impact. Just a little bit about the context on why we have developed this tool. So we know that the food industry is an industry that has an important impact in terms of sustainability, and we know we need to reduce this environmental impact. 25% of the greenhouse gas emissions at a global level are coming from the food industry. But also other indicators that we have is 70% of the freshwater consumption comes from food industry, 20% of overexploitation of water resources, 60% of the loss of terrestrial biodiversity, and 33% of degraded soils. So this is a massive challenge for the food industry. We also have a growing pressure from both consumers, retailers, and also from a regulatory point of view in the food industry. From a consumer point of view, consumers are demanding more and more transparency when it comes to the food that they are consuming. We know that in Spain, for example, 83% of consumers are telling us that they would like to be able to read the carbon footprint of the products that they are buying. From a retailer point of view, there is also a growing concern around sustainability. 82% of the food retail CEOs says that sustainability is a key priority for their companies. And we know it as a fact because some of our clients are also telling us that retailers are asking more and more about the information of around sustainability of the products that they are buying. So they are moving from just asking, the technical information and the pricing and so on, but also they are starting to ask about the impact of the products that they are buying. And from a regulatory point of view, there is, of course, a big challenge for 2050. In 2050, we have this commitment of going into net zero emissions. In 2030, we have this commitment to reduce it by 45%. And I think both the European Union and the countries are asking also the food industry not only to reduce their emissions, but also to be more responsible and to communicate in a more responsible way, in a more trustworthy way, and in a more transparent way to consumers. It's true that today the communication that food companies are making about sustainability varies a lot, and it feels like everybody's talking about what they want. Sometimes we find companies that are like really responsible, and everything they talk about is really measured, and they have the figures, and the figures are calculated in a very rational and robust way, but sometimes it's not the case. And we know that there is regulation coming around how the companies can communicate around sustainability in the food industry as well.
Okay, I'm going to tell you a little bit of background of how we came with the idea of developing this tool to help the food industry to calculate their environmental footprint. So in 2013, the European Commission came with the initiative of single market for green products. One of the main objectives of this initiative was to establish a common methodology through the European Union for calculating the environmental footprint of products, not only in the food industry, but in general. So, to accomplish this objective, they propose a methodology called PEP, that means product environmental footprint. This methodology is subdivided by specific categories, uh, where each category aims to reflect the special requirements of the product that is made for. For example, if we want to calculate the environmental footprint of dairy products, we need to relate to the PEF methodology for dairy products, and so on. So this PEF methodology was launched on 2013, and now we are in the transition phase with some public consultations that are being carried on at the moment. And the original intention was to become an European regulation by 2025. So this methodology is basically like a list of instructions on how to carry on a life cycle analysis of a product. The methodology proposes 16 different impact categories that are those shown on the right side of the screen. Climate change, ozone depletion, human toxicity, ionizing radiation, and so on. This life cycle analysis takes into account the whole life cycle, the whole value chain of the product, from the primary industry, that is, for example, the crops for making ingredients, till the end of use, end of life stage, that is when the consumer consumes or utilizes the product. So with this, based on this initiative, we came with the idea on developing this tool, that is a tool tailored for the food industry, that aims to help them to make it easier to calculate the environmental footprint of their products. The products of the food industry are quite difficult to calculate if the person that is going to calculate their environmental footprint doesn't have basis on sustainability and life cycle assessment. So what we intended to do is to help them give them a tool that provides the model for the products, and they just have to input their data. So they have results based on primary inputs, so it's more precise. And okay, so the main benefits of using this kind of tool is that now the industry can measure the environmental footprint. So if they can measure, they can improve, or at least they can look for improvement opportunities within their industry. So basically, what they have to do is to begin the study, obtain results, and with those results, the tool has a specific functionality, that allows them to perform an eco-design study that, in other words, is a what-if study. What if I change this? How the environmental footprint changes, and so on. And with that, they can work on reduction initiatives within their industry, trying to aim for an improvement. So the tool looks like this. We try to make it as friendly as possible. Each industry can tailor the study accordingly to their needs, the processes, and the tool provides them with some series of questionnaires where the user can input the the production data and the consumables that they use to produce their products. Yeah. So also the tool can send invitations to the providers, so we ensure the confidentiality of some sensitive data of the different industries within the value chain of the product. And finally, we provide the results with a graphical point of view that is easier for them to interpret and look for hotspots. It also provides a full report in Excel format that provides more detail on the results of each product. And this would be the results of the eco-design study that allows the comparison between the original study and the theoretic study of the possible changes to improve. And also it allows to ask for an EnviroScope label. So based on the product environmental footprint results, if the user likes or wants to communicate their results, they have the option of solicitate an EnviroScore label through the tool. I forgot to tell you, it's an online tool, so the user doesn't have to install anything on their computer. So they just have to have internet access, and they can ask for an EnviroScore label. So these are some advantages of using Enviro Digital. that is the I was saying it guarantee the confidentiality and security of the company's data. It provides trust because it is based on a methodology that is promoted by the European Commission. It is easy to use, it's friendly, and it doesn't require a lot of hours of training. And this is the team that works on the tool. I don't know if you, Esther, wants to add something. You are on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, no, just to mention that when we compare this tool with other tools that are available on the market, what we find is that there are mainly three things that are quite unique to this tool. The first one is that it's specialized for the food industry, and we have developed the tool thinking about the food industry and taking into account all their needs. The second one is that is based on the PEF methodology, and it gives a very robust scientific background behind. And the third one is that it's easy to use, and you don't need to be a technical expert in sustainability to be able to use it. And regarding the team, so the tool has been developed by one of the fathers is David here, that has explained to you everything. But ASTI is a technological center that has 40 years of experience and that has a very strong focus on sustainability. And we've gathered a team that is not only people that is very expert like David on sustainability for the food industry, but also a team that is specialized in regulatory, in communication, in commercialization and marketing. And I think the whole of the team it makes that the tool is finally very well adapted, because it's not only very efficient in what it calculates, but it's also taking into account the needs of the end user. And we have been testing the tool with a number of companies in the past months, and we're very happy with the results because it helps them not only, of course, to understand where they are in terms of sustainability and to make decisions, informed decisions, and not taking decisions a little bit like blind, because you don't have the data and you don't know what you're doing. But also just the fact of using the tool and making this analysis helps them to put a bigger effort in sustainability, and it works as well as a very good training for them in sustainability. And in the food industry, what we see a lot is that sometimes you don't have, in a lot of cases, you don't have a team that is working on environment, on sustainability. Sometimes you have people that has different profiles, like you can have people that comes from research and development. Sometimes you have people that comes from communication or comes from quality. So it's a very different type of people working on sustainability in the food companies. And sometimes they don't have a lot of training in sustainability itself. So the tool also helps them in this sense. So that's a little bit all for us. I saw there was one question, I think, already on the chat around databases. So I saw is, what data can I use when I don't have primary data? Are you working with databases? So maybe David, you can answer.
Yeah, sure. So the tool works with a database also promoted by the European Commission that is the database of environmental footprint 3.0. By now, it is by several companies like Blanc and AgriFootprint and Equipment, but the European Commission has the intention of have the ownership of the database in the know exactly when, but it's gonna be like the whole pack, the methodology and the database to use like throughout.
Okay.
Was that sufficient, Henrike, for an answer, or do you want to react on it? Okay, are there any other questions from the audience? David, in your presentation, you mentioned the word
Yes.
hotspots. Can you explain what you mean with this?
Yeah, sure. Sorry. A hotspot, we call a hotspot a point that is notable. Like, for example, here we have the environmental impact category of climate change, and a hotspot would be where is like notably higher the impact. Like, for example, here this blue bar would be our hotspot, that in this case is the electrical consumption. So with this information we can focus our efforts on reducing that electrical consumption to improve the environmental footprint of the product.
Okay. Is it something different than low-hanging fruit, a hotspot?
Sorry, can you repeat?
Is it something different than low-hanging fruit?
Low-hanging fruit.
That is usually when you, let's say, that's my experience, when you work in a company and you want to make changes, then you start with the low-hanging fruit, the things that are easy to change
Yeah,
and where
the
you can
easier to
already
do.
have impact.
Yeah. So a hotspot would be like the most maybe critical points that affects the whole environmental footprint. And in some cases, they also could be maybe the easier ones, but not always. So with this information, the company has more like more helpful information at the moment of decision making, so they can perform the most suitable improvement opportunities.
Okay, thank you. I see that Bruno is asking a question. Maybe you can ask it yourself.
I think this question would be for Esther. It's can we have, you already read? Can we have some information on the implementation cost?
Yes. So the implementation cost, it varies a little bit on the type of company. So we have it depends a little bit on the size of the company, the number of products they want to analyze, and also depends a little bit on the complexity of the company. So it's not the same price if the company works, for example, in 8 different categories of food products and in 20 different countries than it's if it's working in one country and one food category. So it varies a little bit, but let's say we have a price from 6,000 euros to depends a little bit. More complex ones can be much higher. because when you work in different food categories, it means for us that we have to implement different food value chains in the tool. So it depends a little bit on that. And in terms of implementation, like this is a web tool. So you can access from the website, you just need internet connection. We don't have to set up anything on a computer, so the access is quite simple. Once you buy your license, your subscription, you receive your login and your password, and you can start using the tool. We run training sessions with the companies, and then what I would say what is more costly for the companies, I would say, is to start using the tool, because it means they have to sit down, they have to gather a lot of information, they have to involve their suppliers, so they get the information from the suppliers as well. And I would say that's the most costly part, not thinking about money in itself, but time-consuming part, I would say. But in our experience, once they have started to do it, and once they understand a little bit about how it works and the process, they do it, and the results are really great, because just making the first analysis, when they see the results, as David was explaining, you see very clearly where is your biggest impact, and when you see that, you understand really well where you have to put all your efforts. And what we found out is that today companies are really not taking decisions on sustainability with all the information they could have. Like we've found some companies that are using currently Enviro Digital, for example, that were thinking, they were about committing investment in changing part of their packaging process, moving from plastic to paper, and they were about to make a big investment in order to do so, because one of their customers were asking them to do so. And when we ran the first analysis and we did the eco-design simulation with them on this part, we saw that it was not only going to cost them a lot of money, but it was not going to improve their environmental footprint. It was even going to be worse. So we gave them the information they needed to make this decision. So they decided to stay with plastic, and they had the information to convince internally and also externally to their customers about that was the best decision to make. So it's I think once they start using the tool, and once they start gathering the first information, it goes more fluidly, I would say, and the end result is it's really positive for the companies. It really helps them.
Are there any other questions in the audience? Like we can see Bruno is satisfied. Because otherwise I have another question, because you mentioned that there are some other tools that one can use that also lead to labeling. One that is quite well developed in the Netherlands is the True Cost initiative. And that means that you can look at the price, what you have to pay in the shop for a product, but you can also try to take the environmental costs into account. And recently I saw that someone was, that she received an award because she has a company in food service, and she used this tool to lower the environmental footprint of her products because she looked at the true price. So she said, well, in this case, I use this oil, and when I would use another one, I would save a certain amount of CO2. So she exchanged it, and that was for her an easy way to make these changes. Is this something that you're aware of that you could also do, or how does it
Personally,
compare?
personally, I was not aware, so thanks for the information. I will have a look into it. I don't know, David, if you were aware about this tool yourself or no?
No, no, no.
No, but I think it's really interesting because, of course, from a consumer point of view, you can say there is the cost of the product. It can be an economic cost, but there is also a sustainability cost. Let's say, no, there is a cost for the earth, and I think more and more consumers are willing to understand that kind of cost. This tool helps. EnviroDigital can help consumers understand this cost as well through the EnviroScore labeling. I was not aware about this initiative, but I will have a look into it.
I will share some information. Thank you very much for the presentation and for answering the questions. And then I wish you a nice day, and we will for sure we will stay in touch. And then
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
I think now Kees can start presenting.
Yes, do you hear me?
We hear you, yes?
Oh, this is good. And then here's my presentation. So can I share this, Edward?
Yes, you can share it, yes.
Can you already see it, or do I have to put on the button? I will have to say, oh, share, and then screen. Then we will see something. Something like this. Okay, so, and let's see. Is now my presentation, is everybody seeing it?
Wait a moment. We just saw your screen of the Teams meeting.
Yeah, so you do not see my screen, this one yet.
Now we see your screen, but not the presentation.
Yes, I'm sharing the wrong screen, I think. Screen sharing, and then I can choose. Okay, excellent. No, I cannot share my presentation.
Shall I do it?
Yes, please, because this is not working. Because I'm using the Teams from the browser, so it doesn't have all the functionalities. Excellent. But if you can help me, Edward.
Yeah, I'm looking.
like we practiced. Now you click this button.
Let me see where I have it.
Yeah, what I liked about the discussion also about the presentation that we already had with Q Assurance, we are specialized in food safety compliance in meeting all certification standards. And what is completely new now since June, so since a month, is that we have to add climate change to our certification programs, and we have to add food waste. So you see that really things are happening that are interesting for the tool that was presented. And also what you said about true pricing, but these things really need to be in the quality management systems of food companies to be in comply. So climate change has to be in it, and food waste. So it's also, I think, a nice possibility for the system presented, that people have to use it because they need to be in comply. What I would like to talk about the next 20 minutes is food safety excellence. How to set up a learning organization for food safety to be in comply, and just how to work together on it. So please, next slide, Edward. I will do it like this.
Yeah.
When we talk about food safety compliance, I'm from out of practice. I'm always in food factories, running around with other people, helping them to produce food that goes into the market. In the Netherlands, for example, we facilitate around 5 billion labels a year that products are okay for consumers. We work in Europe, Asia, and Africa. But we always do the same trick. We always have companies in the middle, the food company. We help them with certification, to be in compliance with legislation, to manage their suppliers, and to manage their customers. So this picture has always to be in compliance on a daily basis. And food companies have to be in compliance with around 2,000 requirements from the quality standards. There are around 400 legal changes a year. You have around 100 suppliers, you have around 100 customers and perhaps 1 million consumers. So the whole picture has to be managed in the right way from regard of specifications that you agree with everybody. The quality activities need to be okay. The traceability from raw material to end product have to be okay. And assessment that you are in compliance with legislation. And all these things are coming together to the quality department. So when you go to the next slide, then we have this big map of things that you have to manage in your company. On the left side, again, the food company, certification, consumers, legislation, and suppliers. On top, specifications, quality activities, traceability assessment. And when you combine them, you have around 20 knowledge areas that you need to manage as a company. And there's a lot of work, and there are no people anymore who are able to do this job because there are not enough people to work in this field of competence. Next slide, please. So when we talk about these knowledge areas, how do you want to be organized? Do you want to be organized in such a way that things are happening and you forget it that it has happened, or do you want to know that things are going to change? So sometimes you realize, hey, my label is not okay anymore. My EG number on my product is not okay anymore. I have to change it. So then something has happened, but you realize it too late because the Food Safety Authority is telling you. And when you are networked with suppliers and customers, people will say you, hey, next year there's a legal change, so please adapt your label. But the best thing, of course, is that you already know in 2 years' time things are going to change. For example, in the Netherlands, in 2 years' time, we have to change the way we label allergens. So we can now already work on it. So then you are in time with these legal changes. So the question is always, how do you want to be organized? And do you want to know that something has happened and you have to close your factory because you were too late? Or would you like to be proactive and change it in a way that you're always on the wave and that things go well? In the Netherlands, we have around 5 big cases of companies that are now closed because they forgot that something happened. Zwanenberg forgot that the listeria legislation was there, so they had to change something with listeria management. Too late, so they had to close the factory. Van Wijnen had a little issue with salmon. Too late. Also, the legislation changed, but they were too late. And when you are too late, you can close your factory because you're not in comply. So things can really harm companies when they are not knowing that things are changing. And usually these things are happening to big companies that are a little bit big. So not the biggest one. And the multinationals are usually organized in such a way they will know that things are happening. Small companies know it because they need to know it, otherwise they cannot survive. But the middle companies with around 200, 500 people, they are usually in their bubble, just doing their thing, and suddenly things are happening to them. Okay, next slide. Edward, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. So when we talk about knowledge, how to manage knowledge is there's an equation for it. It's information that you have to have in your company. It's the experience of the people that know how to interpret the information. It's about the skills that you can do something with it. And it's about attitude, that you want to do something with it. So knowledge is really about information, experience, skills, and attitude. So when you do not have experienced people in your company, but you still have a lot, but you have a lot of information, it will not work. But also the other way around. When you have people in your factory that are there already for 40 years, but they're not using the latest information, still the knowledge doesn't have to be so big because the world is changing. And when you talk about knowledge management, it's about development of knowledge, so that you have knowledge in-house in your factory. It's about sharing that knowledge because usually somebody knows it, but the rest doesn't know it. And it's about applying it, actually doing something with it and evaluating if it works. A lot of times in food companies, the quality department knows a lot of things about food safety and food sustainability, but it's about the application of that knowledge by salespeople, by product development, by people in supplier management, that they really do something with that information. So it's not only about knowing it, it's about doing something with it. When you do something with it, you can do it in 2 ways. Usually companies have a quality management system, And the quality management system is always quite straightforward. You have your handbook describing what you're doing. You have documents to show evidence that you're doing it. In the case of food safety, you have a hazard study, but you can also do an environmental study or another study. And you have to maintain with auditing, you can check if people are doing the thing they have to do in the factories or the suppliers, and at the end you have an action list that of things that are not going well or you would like to improve, with a timeline when you are changing it. For example, now the new legislation, the new certification is asking for at least 3 actions. One is on food safety culture, one is on food waste, and one is on climate change. So these 3 actions all the companies in all food companies in Europe have to have at least these 3 actions, these 3 goals in their yearly action list to work on. And when you talk about the quality system itself, is always based on the Deming circle. Hey, you plan something, you do it, you check if things go well or are not going well, and then you improve it. So plan, do, check, act. This is the normal basic way of a good functioning quality management system. And when it works, it works. Titan had a nice post last week or this week also about Titan, but then the Titan, the titanium that has to be in an airplane. Boeing has now a little bit of problems because the titanium supplier did not deliver titanium, but perhaps a little bit different. So there was fraud in the supplier product. But it's also the mistake of Boeing, because their plan to check act does not work. They just accept new products without quality control checking if it's really okay or not, and then you can also blame yourself that things are not going well. But anyway, this is just normal basic quality management that people are still not capable of to do. When you have the quality system in place, you also need another system in place to identify new changes. So that's the new slides. It's about compliance. It's about checking if legislation is changing. For example, we have now the food waste legislation, zero emissions, nice new legislation that's coming. So we have to work on that. We had the example of paper and plastic. There's also a little issue with plastic, because when it's for single use, it's not allowed anymore, or you have to put up other mechanisms. So from an eco point of view, it's okay to stop with to not start with paper, but from a legal point of view, you still have to stop with plastic, although plastic can be much better than just only paper. But anyway, sometimes legislation is competing with each other. But you need to, as a food company, you really need to be aware of the changes in the food law, and around 400 changes there are a year. So it's good to be and stay in comply. From a hazard point of view, there are also always hazards you have to tackle with your hazard study. It's all about validation. There are a lot of hazards are known, but it's good to stay up to date with the latest PFAS information, MOSMOA, mineral oils, and that kind of things that are now getting more and more important. The quality standards itself are changing every time. It's still important for a food company to be in comply, otherwise you cannot sell. It's the same with the presentation that we had. It's about where's the pain of the customer. Is there legislation? Is there a quality standard that they need to comply with? A food company will never ever do something different when it only costs money. There has to be a reason. The reason is legislation or a quality standard or a consumer really wanting it. But usually it starts with legal, because then people really have to do it. That's mostly the most successful systems are systems that people have to have, are not a nice to have. Fraud cases, we already addressed the titanium fraud, but also in foods you sometimes have some fraud issues, like olive oil from Italy that are not out of Italy. And you also have to train people. It's about the knowledge sharing in the company. So these changes have to be identified with sense, interpreted, decide, action. So you sense, you see that something is happening, new legislation about allergens in the Netherlands, you interpreted it, okay, I'm in the Netherlands, I have to do something with it. And when you're Belgium, you don't have to care. But in the Netherlands, we are having to do this. Then you have to decide when to take that action, and then you have to take that action so your labeling is okay. Problem is when you change your label, then your labeling is okay from the Dutch legislation point of view, but perhaps the Germans would like to have something else. So it's always good to discuss what you change and when. But you need to be aware of this, that changes are happening. You have to organize it in such a way that you identify yourself as a company, but also share the information again in the rest of the company so people know what to do and when. And when you look in Europe, I think there are a lot of projects now on this compliance system, early warning systems for hazards, for legislation, for fraud cases. But we need to take into account that all these early warning systems are only 1% of what the food company needs. It's a nice to have, but usually it's not a need to have because you have time to change things and you don't have to change directly when something is changing. Okay, next one, please. So when we talk about the food company itself, we have the quality management system and we have the warning system, the compliance system. Who's responsible for it? Usually it's the food safety compliance team or the quality department. They're responsible for the quality system and that everything goes well in the factory, and they are responsible for identifying new issues to improve the quality system. And that improvement doesn't have to be on a daily basis. You get information and usually you have 1-2 years time to change the way you have to work. Legislation is not happening suddenly. Legislation is there and then you still have 2 years time to implement it. What is happened suddenly was the climate change issue in the quality standards, because that was so important. You really have to do it directly. But this is only because of consumers want it and you have to do it. But normally you have time enough to change your system if needed. But these two mechanisms, plan, do, check, act, sense, interpreted, decide, action, are two mechanisms that are both important in a company to have. And usually only the first one is there and not the second one. Yeah, next slide, please. So when you apply food safety knowledge in the company, now we have the total picture. On the right side is the quality system, the hazard study, the documents that you have to have, the handbook, the auditing system, the action list, a recipe module to calculate labels. That's normally what a food company at least needs. And I think also for sustainability, you can use a lot of the things that are on the right side, because the recipe is knowing which ingredient from which country, by which way it is also traveled by plane or by a boat. So a lot of sustainability calculation information is already in the quality system that the company already has. And on the left side, you have the compliance information that you need to be in compliance. And what we tried with IMIS, our software module package platform, we tried to combine these two. So we have compliance databases that you know what to be in comply with, and you can check it on the performance in your factory by knowing if you're doing the things in the right way. So we talk about two things. When we go to the next slide, we talk about validation. On the left side, are you doing the right things in your company? Are you doing the right checks? And verification, are you doing the things right? So, for example, legislation is saying that you have to do listeria studies for products that in which listeria, the pathogen, can grow. The verification is then if you did that analysis on your product groups and if you did those studies to be sure that listeria stays below 100 at the end of the shelf life. So it's about validation and about verification. And when you look to these two mechanisms, we can also identify where AI can help. Because AI sounds very nice, and when you put AI in your offering, suddenly your company is worth 2 times because you're working on AI. So you also now work on AI because it's handy to say. But it's all about data, validated data. Then you can do checks that are relevant. So, for example, what we made was Ask IMIS. You can ask IMIS two things. On the left side, about legislation, about hazards, about fraud, about standards, and what you have to do. So you can ask, what is the legislation for my packaging for animals or whatever, and then you get an answer. But on the right side, you can ask, what is the cleaning policy in my company? And are people really doing it? Or have I missed 2 times cleaning? And are some people not trained well? Are they always making the same mistakes? So it's about what do you ask to the system, but also is the information valid? Because when you ask the wrong, how can you say it? When you ask IMIS, can you please make a generic handbook for me to be in compliance with the quality standards, and generative AI is starting to make some procedures for you, you will never have all the information that you really need to be in comply, because you need evidence on word level that things are okay. And that's very dangerous. So I know food companies now in the Netherlands, Kees, we have a new handbook because ChatGPT has helped us and we have now great procedures in the house. So, but terrible. Hey, you ask somebody, a kid of 4 years old, you ask, can you please write something for me? Because that's the knowledge at the moment of AI. So it's really good to know what am I asking, whom, and on based on which information. It's the same as the last presentation. It's good to have the environmental mapping, etc., of your products. But what are the sources? The reason to believe is that the information is okay. So what do we need? Singularity from a food safety point of view, but also from a sustainability point of view, because that is the information that you can use to do the checks with. That information has to be okay. For the future, what Google knows, we already made something what IMIS knows. So what Google knows about you, we know about the food company. We already did the databases vector analysis. So you make 728 vectors about combinations of data, and then you can analyze the data, and then you can send the answers to generative AI for a nice chat that you have the right answer in place. But really, it only works when you have validated databases, that you really know that the data is okay, that you analyze, and that you really can get the compliance on word level. And that's very hard because you have to pass an audit. And when the audit is not going well, then they will not believe your system anymore. And at the end, the information, the compliance information will go to the consumer and not only to the auditor. So it's good to really think about real-time assurance, how to convince consumers that things are okay, but they really need to be okay. Albert Heijn had a nice map of their raw materials a couple of years ago, from which country they came. But that was just what people filled in. Suppliers filled in a database and they say, okay, it comes from Nigeria, because otherwise they cannot go further in the system. And then Albert Heijn is presenting, yes, all our spices are coming from Nigeria, but only on that day, not only on the 365 days. So it's useless to say that these things are real time. It's just a one snapshot of a situation. It's your own metaverse, it's your own bubble of information that you think is okay, but it's not validated and it's not really true when you communicate it to a consumer. One slide further, please. When we talk about certification, when food companies get certified every year by the Global Food Safety Initiative for BRC, IFS, FSCC. So in Britain it's BRC, the rest of Europe is using IFS because of the Germans and the French people. And in the Netherlands we have a little bit of FSCC, and in Asia because it was Dutch HACCP. But at the end, an auditor is coming to your factory and is asking if you are in compliance with the standards. They're not checking anymore if you are really doing it, because there's no time for it. It's just validation. Do you have a procedure for that? Do you have a procedure for this? Do you have food waste as a target? Do you have climate change as a target? That's all they ask. So certification is less okay than 20 years ago. 20 years ago, we only had 100 questions instead of 2000, but they really checked if you did it. And now they are asking you if you do it. There's a big difference between checking and just asking. But we trust companies because they are certified, because somebody has said, yes, I do it. On the bottom is IMIS. IMIS can directly show that evidence that things are in compliance or not. So not only by asking it, but really showing it on a daily basis based on 50,000 food safety items. 2030, 2 years later, where are we going to? Where are we going to in 2020? Next slide, please, Edward.
Yes.
Yes, then I think verification will be back in the house, so we can verify and again that companies are willing to do things they have to do instead of that they say that they do it. So then we have verification and validation back using, in this case, AI audit or another system. But it's all about when you really use technology in the right way, you can do verification. You can check if a company is really doing what they have to do because it's analyzed by AI, it's analyzed by queries, by data. And still auditors are needed for food safety culture and to talk to people if they really know what they do. But that combination will be good. So in 6 years' time, I really think that their certification is there together with AI, giving back verification and validation, but that there is a road to go, and it all starts with digitalization. When companies are not having their data in a digital structured way, you can never ever apply AI on it. Okay, I think this was it. We have to, yeah, some links. 3 links. One is a scorecard, so you can see, you can analyze the current knowledge areas in your company, how good you are scoring. But everything less than 3, the point 3 is already an action for your food safety culture also. So it's good to fill it in and to have your targets for the next 3 years. The second one is a calculator helping you what to digitalize to be able to use AI or not. So it's just helping you to get things automated. And the third one is a presentation about IMIS. It is clickable, so then I don't have to present it. You can just go through it and see how beautiful the system is. Then we have a next slide. It's a little article about learning organizations I wrote 2 years ago with some people from the US. It's just about the learning stages, how to organize yourself. And then there's last table. There's just an overview. You can just see, hey, where are you as a company? Are you on the left side, getting connected? Are you in the middle, networking with consumers and with customers and suppliers? Or are you really sensing, responding what's happening in the rest of the world? Good news is everybody is almost on the left side, getting connected. So we can talk about AI, we can talk about a lot of nice things to automate, platforms, transparency. For me, I'm from the Netherlands, it's one big bullshit bingo at the moment, because everybody's talking about the right side, holistic and connected, but we're all completely on the left. And when you want to go to the right side, the only way is to start with the left. Not with platforms, not with supplier portals, asking information that's not true. You have to connect with the practice, where it's really happening. And then you also don't have to ask if things are okay or not, because your systems are filled by the reality and not by the things that people just type in. So that was my presentation, Edward. Thank you very much for the honor.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. I could not see if there were questions in the chat. I don't think so, but maybe first we move to the next presentation and then we do the question and answers, if that's okay for you.
Yeah.
Yes? Then I now invite Pablo to present his part on Meridia.
Yes, thank you so much, Edward. Let me pull up my presentation. One moment. One moment. Yes, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So thank you for giving me the space to talk about Meridia's latest innovation, our Verify solution. Verify is a real-time agri-commodity data verification solution for the purposes of compliance with the EU's deforestation regulation, or the EUDR. When we develop Verify, we actually develop it with the intention of giving our clients the peace of mind that they could be compliant with the regulation in a comprehensive, fast, and affordable way. But actually, before I jump into explaining the details of our Verify solution, just want to quickly touch base a little bit on Meridia's background, which I think is also important to understand the value that we provide to our clients. So Meridia started as a land titling specialist in 2015, so almost 10 years ago. And so back in the days, we developed a software that allows us to map farm polygons and get them approved as land titles for smallholder farmers in West Africa. And as a result of this, I would say, first innovation, we were able to bring down the cost and the time to get a land title approved. Back in the days, the land titles cost a couple of $1,000 to get approved, and we brought that down to a couple of hundreds. And also the time that it would take to get that land title approved, it was a couple of years, several years, and we brought that down to a couple of months. So this was a great success for us in West Africa. We rolled this solution in Ghana and Ivory Coast. We partnered with a couple of cocoa organizations that were working with these smallholders, and it was actually quite successful. And but my point is, what this means is that we have actually 10 years of experience already since 2015, gathering and processing the data, but also dealing with the challenges of understanding the local regulations, which, by the way, is also an essential element of the EUDR. So, you know, of course, in the UDR, deforestation is widely mentioned, is the main topic of the regulation. However, what is many times not discussed is the quality of the field data that service providers are processing to detect deforestation. And so when we at Meridia receive data sets from our clients, before actually checking if they have deforestation, the first thing we do is we look at the quality of the field data that we're receiving to assess if it's trustworthy. And why? Because there's actually a significant amount of farmer data that is faulty. And this happens, by the way, across all different types of clients, across all different types of countries, commodities, supply chains, you name it. So if you're familiar with dealing with data sets, I'm sure you're also familiar with some of the challenges that we have here on the right-hand side of the screen. When we receive the polygons or the GPS coordinates, but mostly polygons, we see a lot of them that have spikes, they have weird shapes, they have invalid geometries. We see a lot of duplicates of polygons, unfortunately. We also see a lot of overlap between polygons and other polygons, polygons and urban areas, polygons and protected areas, and the list goes on and on and on. And because of our land titling background, we have experience dealing with these challenges and addressing them for almost 10 years. And also, well, just figuring out what are the necessary characteristics that the polygons need to have to be of good enough quality to be compliant with the existing regulations. Moving forward to May of last year, the UDR, as you already know, was adopted with a market that unfortunately, I believe, was not prepared for it. And I think it was not prepared for it for numerous reasons. So first of all, the targeted commodities of the UDR have supply chains with numerous smallholder farmers, which makes it actually quite difficult for the implementation of the regulation itself. Second of all, the regulation puts a burden of proof into the operators and traders of these commodities, which means that also the procurement specs of these organizations will have to adapt accordingly. And what we see at Meridia, based on our 10 years of experience collecting and processing data, is that unfortunately these commodities are insufficiently traceable, which means that they lack integrity, they lack consistency, and they lack plausibility as well. And so as a result, companies in these commodities are now facing serious risks that go from penalties of up to 4% of their EU revenue, all the way to supply chain disruptions, as well as reputational harm. So as you can see, the situation is actually quite worrying based on the assessment of the market that we at Meridia are seeing already for a couple of years. And by the way, we only think that it's going to get worse as the deadline of implementation of the regulation starts coming into place, which will be December 31st of this year. And so what we see, we have different types of clients, which range from procurement professionals to sustainability leads to geospatial engineers, and they have all voiced their concerns, which we can kind of like summarize in the green rectangle in the upper right corner. And so, for instance, they're worried about the risks that are associated with buying a particular batch of coffee or cocoa. They're also worried about whether they can trust the field data that they're receiving for their suppliers. They also want to know how to manage their monitoring and reporting costs in the most efficient way. And actually, one of the most common requests that we also get from our clients is, can we trust this new supplier that we want to add into our supply chain, especially nowadays with the volatility of cocoa prices and the shortage of coffee worldwide. So in other words, we see that these needs of our clients are actually emerging more and more as a result of the regulation, but also as a result of the supply chain and the availability of these commodities worldwide. And so what we did is we take this feedback into consideration, and we kind of evolved the initial solution, the initial software that we had, the land titling software, and we created our Verify software, our Verify solution that is real-time data verification and compliance. This service can be integrated in the commercial procurement cycles of traders and operators that are subject to the regulation. It's also one of the most comprehensive, if not the most comprehensive solution out there, allowing companies to be fully compliant with the UDR, including also the auditability. So what we are trying to do with this, or what we mean by this, is that we're trying to make the companies audit proof in case they are requested to undergo one of them by the competent national authorities. Last but not least, we also provide resolutions to improve the quality of the field data and support their field teams. And why we provide these resolutions? Because we see ourselves as a kind of like a data doctor. A data doctor is one that tells you, yes, what is wrong with your data on the first place, but then also provides you the medicine so that you can mitigate the risks or the issues that we have identified. Last but not least, we also provide this service in an affordable and flexible way. Right now, and I'm also going to talk about that in the next couple of slides, but right now we offer 3 delivery models, but we're moving more and more into only 2 delivery models, an API way of working, but then also a portal that will be launched also as a software as a service product that will allow our clients the flexibility and the affordability to pay as they go on a monthly basis. And by this, they will allow, or they will be able to save resources and time in the future. And that is what we mean by real-time verification and compliance. It is a comprehensive, it is a fast, and it's an affordable way of being compliant with the regulation. Now, what is our approach to achieve full compliance with the UDR? If you Google EUDR solutions, if you Google EUDR service providers, you're going to get many different approaches, many different interpretations of the law. However, to summarize, there are 4 key elements of the EUDR that you need to be compliant with. The first of all, it's the quality of the field data. This is not listed in the regulation itself, but in the frequently asked questions that were published in June last year. So it says that you need to ensure that you can trust basically the data that comes from the geolocalization of the farms. And so what Meridia does is we provide a risk rating on how much you can trust the data at the farm level, how much you can trust the quality of the field data, how much you can trust the polygon based on the characteristics that you're providing to us. With this, we cover the integrity of the polygon, the consistency, and the plausibility. Those 3 key elements we assess to determine the risk rating related to the quality of the field data. That is the first element. The second element is deforestation, of course. To assess deforestation, we use reputable sources. We currently use a mix of public sources and private sources. We use Global Forest Watch, TMF Hansen maps, which are public. But then we're also in the process of procuring a commercial maps that will only increase the accuracy of the deforestation detection for the countries and the commodities where we're implementing our methodology. The third element is the legality of the data. And perhaps this is my favorite element because this is the one that has the most diverse number of interpretations out there. Some remote sensing companies do this legality test. They actually outsource this legality check to a legal firm or a consulting firm that conducts some sort of like country level assessment, and then somehow that is integrated with the remote sensing company's deforestation assessment. And it's actually a weird mix of how all these companies are doing it. What we do is we do this legality check in-house. It's all part of the same analysis of EUDR compliance. And what we do is we take a look at where the polygons are located, where the farms are located, and we provide, just like for data quality, for the legality, we also do a risk rating on whether it's legal or not to have that farm based on its location. And that is Meridia's unique selling point. We are the only ones taking a look at the specific indigenous rights, the specific environmental and forest protection laws, the specific human rights from that specific geolocation to determine whether it's legal or not to have that farm there. And that's also a key aspect of the regulation. So that is those three elements are the ones that we're now offering in our Meridia Verify portal, which I will also explain in a minute. But those are the main elements that are part of the regulation. A fourth element that is only applicable if you have traceability data was also published in December 2023, which says that operators and traders, or basically any organization that is subject to the regulation, are required to ensure that the required information and traceability that they supply is actually trustworthy. So what we do is we also provide a risk rating on how much you can trust your traceability data. And we do this at the parcel level. We take a look at bill ladings, we take a look at receipts, invoices. Basically, we adapt this test depending on the supply chain, depending on the commodity, depending on the country, because the traceability data can also be different. But with this kind of like this is what I mean with a very comprehensive solution. We cover the main elements, but we're also very thorough in determining whether you can trust the quality of the data, on whether you can actually detect deforestation, whether you can farm or have those farms there based on the specific legislation of the countries of production, and whether your traceability data is actually also trustworthy. And that is the reason why we have been able to get a lot of traction with our solution. Moving on. So Meridia identifies risky, erroneous, fraudulent, and non-compliant data using three things. First of all, a very comprehensive methodology, as I already explained. I actually dare to say once again that it's one of the most comprehensive, if not the most comprehensive or complete methodologies in the market nowadays. This includes 45 different tests that take a look at the quality of the field data, the physical flow of data, veracity, and the EUDR compliance in terms of legality and the deforestation. As part of our methodology or our services, we also offer practical resolutions for the major risks that we have identified in our analysis. This methodology is underpinned by decades of field experience and also improved thanks to the feedback of our clients throughout this past couple of years, and is currently being validated by industry experts and even audited by one of the Big Fours. The methodology is also, the service is also in full alignment with the countries of production laws and several other industry standards. We take a look at whatever information is available out there. In some countries, for example, in Latin America, we have cadastral information. There are specific also indigenous laws, which is, by the way, very different from the situation in West Africa. So we adapt our methodology, we tweak it accordingly to the different laws of production laws in the countries where we decide to roll it out. We use a mix of Earth observation and ground truthing, as well as verified reference datasets to determine our analysis. And we have currently rolled it out in 35 origin countries, mainly in cocoa, coffee, palm oil, rubber, and soy, which are some of the key commodities that are tackled by the regulation. And you might be wondering, why are you in 35 and not in 40 or in 60 or in 100? Actually, we're currently in 40 or almost 40 origin countries. But the reason we have not really rolled it out in every single country is because we take a look at really the legality tests that need to be adapted for every single country where we decide to go into. Why? Because every single country has different laws. For instance, in one country, it might be legal to farm in a protected area, whereas in another, it might actually be prohibited. And these countries are sometimes even neighbor countries. So every time we decide to go into a specific origin country, we tweak, we adapt our methodology, we adapt our services to make sure that we can offer that peace of mind to our clients. Last but not least, also technology. We offer fully automated technology that more and more gives quicker results, faster results, almost moving into real time. What I mean by real time is like you're going to be able to get, if you use our service, you're going to be able to get fully results in terms of EUDR compliance and quality of your field data in a matter of minutes. And why in a matter of minutes? Because we understand that that's what the market needs. We get a lot of requests, for example, from traders in the coffee, in cocoa, that are deciding to go with new suppliers as a result of the current market conditions. And many of these companies, they cannot wait weeks, they cannot wait months to determine if they want to sign a new supplier. They have to make a decision usually in a matter of hours or in a matter of days. And that is what we're trying to help them do. We're trying to help them understand in a matter of minutes if, based on the information that the supplier is providing, if this supplier is actually compliant with the UDR legislation, and therefore these traders and operators can buy from them. So that is what we mean by fully automated technology, because it answers the needs of the market. Moving on. Sorry. So Meridia is supported by the expertise of its team, its clients, the complementary fit solutions, and our background in land title, as I have already mentioned. Most of our clients are in the cocoa and coffee space. You might be able to recognize some of them: Cargill, Hershey's, Mondelez, Barry Callebaut. With some of them, we have already working since the start of our land titling expertise in 2015. You might be familiar with Intercontinental Exchange, which is a global platform that owns and operates commodity markets. ICE is actually one of our strategic partners, and they are also going to be launching IceCode. IceCode is a platform that is designed to help traders and operators comply with the UDR and to support the traceability of compliant coffee and cocoa within the EU. And so, when ICE was shopping around for a couple of methodologies, for a couple of partners, they decided to partner with us because they looked at our methodology and they realized that it was one of the most comprehensive solutions in the market. We still offer land titling services. We also have data survey mapping services. We can also license our software for you to gather good quality data. But all of these services are starting to become complementary to our data verify farm and data verify trace solutions, which are the ones triggered to or geared towards EUDR compliance. Moving on, so when you decide, so how do the results of our solution look like in real life? So when you decide to assess your data sets, what you get are two things: a risk scoring or on the quality of your field data that goes from green to red. Basically, everything that is green means that it has no issues. Everything that is yellow means that there are some risks identified, but they're actually negligible. So it's actually okay-ish. Everything that is orange, it means that it has high risk, which means that we usually advise our clients to do a whole remapping of the polygons that are labeled as orange. And everything that is red, we actually advise our clients to completely exclude from their dataset, because if they source from those farms and they provide information related to those farms to the competent national authorities, they will actually be scrutinized and they run the risk to get a fine, for instance. So you get a score on the quality of your field data, but also on the UDR compliance scoring, which checks deforestation and checks legality as well. And with these two checks, which we do at the dataset level, but also at the farm level, we aim to be one of the most comprehensive solutions. And what I mean by the farm level is that for every single farm that you provide to us, you will be able to see what is the score that you have, but also what are the specific risk contributors that ultimately give you that score. And with this, we estimate that you can take action, that you can already start mitigating some of the risks, or at least be able to exclude those farms from your supply chain so that you don't run any risks to be compliant. However, what we're trying to do, and that's also kind of the urgency that we're trying to create among our clients, is that you don't need to exclude these farms from your data sets. You only need to improve the quality of your field data. You only need to improve the quality of the polygons that you're providing to us, because if you do so, you will be able to maintain your current supply chain and ensure that these smallholders are not excluded from your operations. And that's what Meridia is all about. We're currently supporting cocoa, coffee, palm oil, rubber, and soy. However, and we're of course moving into other commodities that are also targeted by the UDR, like timber, livestock. But we understand that there's a lot of potential of working with high quality data. And that is why it's Meridia's core value proposition to first and foremost assess the quality of your field data. Because if you have high quality data, you can use it for multiple purposes. Not only the UDR, you can also use it for other profiles like the UK Deforestation Law, which is the UK FRC. In the US, there's also the US Forest Act that is also going to come into effect in the next couple of months, hopefully. And so all these different profiles, all these different topics, also like, for example, carbon calculations. We're also exploring a partnership with a couple of organizations in this spectrum: carbon calculations, agroforestry, water management. All of these topics require you to have high quality, trustworthy data in order to be able to demonstrate results. And so that's also why we are exploring what we can do in terms of these topics. As I mentioned earlier, we currently have 3 delivery models, but more and more, we're moving away from secure file transfer. Secure file transfer is the way we start working already with our clients. But in July this year, most of our clients are going to go through our Verify portal. A portal is going to be a platform in which you will be able to log in with your credentials. By the way, you're also going to be able to give your clients access with their own credentials so that they can log in, or you can also log in and then verify your datasets. And in a matter of minutes, as I mentioned before, you will be able to get results on the quality of the field data, how much you can trust the data, and also how much your level of compliance with the UDR in terms of legality and in terms of deforestation. So that's how we aim to bridge the needs of the market. To close, I just want to mention, well, reflecting on what has already been mentioned in the last couple of presentations this webinar, I think transparency and sustainability are 2 of the topics that we see more and more organizations talking about. We see that these topics are actually trending, but I personally believe that you cannot talk about being transparent or sustainable if you are not EUDR compliant, and that is again what Meridia is all about. We want to be the market leaders that provide the most comprehensive solution so that you not only demonstrate that you are EUDR compliant, but at the same time, transparent and sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for an excellent presentation. I've heard a lot of things that I think I heard in all 3 presentations. So there was quite a strong connection, because there was a digital aspect. You mentioned in your presentation that you're a data doctor. I think that was also quite interesting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then you all want to offer a good service that maybe is not available at this moment. Yeah, unfortunately, I have another meeting at 4. Maybe I didn't plan it that sharply. I don't know if anyone of the audience has a question.
I see one question.
Yes. How does your deforestation verification deal with verifying agroforestry or natural forest-grown coffee?
That's a very good question. As I mentioned earlier, we're still in the early stages of exploring other topics like agroforestry, water management, carbon calculations. But maybe Sergey, we can stay in touch. I'll be happy to also put you in touch with my team that exploring those topics, and we can provide you the latest on that topic.
Okay, thank you. Then, Kees, I have a question for you, because you gave a really nice presentation. But what I understood from you is that many people that work in food processing companies, they are afraid of the audits. So with your system, how do you help them to better survive those audits? You're mute.
A lot of food companies have now external quality managers. So they do not have quality managers themselves anymore, but external people are doing the interim job. So when they are not there, then you have a lack of knowledge in the audit, because nobody is able to protect the system. And also the auditors that are checking the system are a lot of times freelance auditors, not also having the latest knowledge anymore to ask. So sometimes you really are in bizarre situations that an auditor is asking a stupid question, but also the company is not able to say that to the auditor, because the auditor, because they do not know themselves anymore also. So food companies really need knowledge systems in place to, how can you say it, to protect themselves, to external influences that can cause harm, because when you lose your certification, you lose your reason to sell. So what I always advise when you really have a supermarket chain as a customer, always have two certifications, BRC and IFS, and two separated certification institutes. So when SGS is saying, no, you're not allowed to produce anymore, then still Lloyd's is happy with you with the other certification. So these are ways you can protect yourself and things are going well. But fear always happens when you're not having the knowledge. So it's all about knowledge management. When you know what you talk about, you're proud about your system and you can defend it. But when you outsource everything, yeah, you're just you can pray.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, unfortunately, I have to stop the webinar now, but I would like to thank you all for your presentations, your enthusiasm. And probably the presentations will become available as a video, so we will inform you about it, and then they will be put on our website, but maybe you can also use them, and we will announce them on LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
So
Thank you so much,
Okay.
thank
George.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye
you.
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.